place in New Orleans, and here we go.
Okay, well, I'm not gonna do a lengthy presentation because I want you all to ask all the questions you need to ask. So instead of me throwing a whole lot of information out there at you, I'll just tell you that I'm a lifelong resident of the Lower Ninth Ward. I was the chair for the Lower Ninth Ward with Acorn. And I'm the vice president and chair of the Lower Ninth Ward chapter of Acorn.
Other community.
Of a community voice, I'm sorry. Oh, heavens die hard.
Yeah, I would do.
Oh, heavens die
Tell the
hard.
truth.
I am very disturbed at the pace of recovery. August 29th is always a sore point, a sore point for me in the month of August because I just visualize coming back to my community after the storm and how it looked, and I look at it now. And even though there are some differences, you know, debris was cleaned up, houses were, you know, picked up from in the middle of the street, and there was some things done. Not nearly enough has been done in the areas that sustained the most damage. You know, i.e. The Lower Ninth Ward, New Orleans East, Gentilly. Those are the areas of the city that sustained the most damage. As I look back from this day at recovery, everything seems to have been economically driven. Where there was revenue or businesses, that's where recovery happened in the city. Now, I don't know if any of y'all are familiar with, and I call it a piece of trash, the Return to Splendor paper that Press Kabakoff wrote. If you read that document, it pretty much is a blueprint for what is not happening in our community. Most communities that, unlike mine, are labeled healthy, you know, we are considered outside the realm of being healthy. We're not close enough to the urban core. So he makes statements like these areas should not be developed. Now mind you, upwards of 65% of people in the Lower Ninth Ward, more than any other area in the city, own their homes. And when we came back and the city said, this is your neighborhood, and a green dot was placed on where you live, we were absolutely outraged because this is we own our home. So how dare someone in the city say you can't come back, your neighborhood's going to be green space. So at that point, the battle lines were drawn, you know, and it was a number of battles, and some of you were witness to it, you know, making a statement that the water wasn't certified safe on the north side of our community that was most damaged, and FEMA saying we can't put trailers on that side of the community. You know, it seemed like idiocy to me. When all these pipes are connected and you're saying a block away the water is certified safe, but a block ahead the water is not certified safe. So we can't put trailers. So that was a battle. Phone service, all the services that are key to you being a part of having in your community, the city did not want to provide. Phone service, cable service, garbage pickup, you know, and of course the water again was certified safe in some areas and not in others. We still to this day have leaks all over the Lower Ninth Ward that continuously feed lots. You know, there's a lot across the street from my mother's house. The grass has got to be about 15 feet high. You know, so these lots continually are fed water. Yet the Surgeon Water Board is saying you want to raise your rates. You've already raised your rates on your sanitation. Now we're going to raise the rates on your water. You know, and you've never provided the service that you should have to any of these communities. It's a battle around bus service in the Lower Ninth Ward. I got a call from one of our members the day before a meeting at RTA saying the Galvez bus stop the route in the Lower Ninth Ward was going to be canceled. And I said, what? You know, now had this member not called me because these flyers were on the bus, I would not have known about this meeting at RTA. So by the time I got to RTA, I had emailed and blown up several people's phone. And before they even started the meeting, they said, Ms. Gueringer, just want to tell you, the service is not going to be canceled. But they play games because in March, they sent officials to the Lower Ninth Ward. We rode around and come up with a route, an adjusted route for the Galvez bus because it's not reaching enough of people on the north side. They said they would do a survey. Lo and behold, they go on the radio just recently. You know, I get an email right before the radio spot saying, well, we haven't done the survey and we'll look at it in our 2013 budget. You know, which is outrageous. You know, taxpayers, and we're taxpayers. Our money is green just like everybody else's. You know, I take no pleasure in riding to other areas of this city and seeing all the amenities, all the services flourishing, and then riding back to my community knowing that there's no full service grocery store there. There's no drugstore. You know, there's only one school, which we fought to get open. You know, there are no businesses. There's nothing. The promise of the fire station and the Pete Sanchez Center, which are anchors in the community, are supposed to happen in mid-September. But promises have been made and promises have been broken. So you're always a little skittish and a little leery when city officials tell you this is gonna happen. Now the mayor is having these budget meetings, which I think is just total BS. Because we go to these meetings, we go with the mindset it's already decided what's gonna happen and what's not gonna happen. You asked us to tighten our belt, you know, and to do without certain services and certain things. We've done without these things for coming up on 7 years. And even prior to that, yet you had 6 or 16 deputy mayors. You have 16 urban planning specialists and nobody knows what they do. You know, you have salaries of over $3 million a year just for your deputy mayors. You know, and you stand up here and you say, we have to tighten our belt and these are the services that are not gonna happen. These are things that are not gonna happen. It's absolutely outrageous, despicable, and unacceptable. So we have to continue this battle, no matter what. You know, city officials need to understand. We are citizens, we are born and raised, I'm born and raised here. You know, and when I think back, I was talking to my mother last night, when I think back, just as a little girl, you know, I used to wonder, I didn't verbally say that, but I used to catch the bus, catch the street car, and I'd go up to uptown and the other areas of the city and looked at the parks and playgrounds and everything that was flourishing. And I would come back and just kind of, you know, mentally look at that picture and then look at the picture of where I lived at. And I would say, why? But you know, as you get older, you come to know you're taxpaying citizens. You know, you have a right to have all these things, but you don't. And the realization for me, like a lot of people like me, didn't happen until after the training. I was like any other black person in the city that had a nice job, had a nice home, a nice car, a savings, and so it didn't bother me that those things didn't exist in my neighborhood. It just was normal for me to have to drive outside my community to a grocery store, you know. But then when I came back from Katrina, and I realized that there was going to be no fairness, no equity, no transparency, and people were saying this to you 24/7, yet you weren't seeing it, I just got furious. And I said, you know what, we've got to fight this, and we've got to be in this for the long haul. So this is where I am right now, and this is where I intend on being. So I'm gonna stop there, and we'll just open it up for questions because there's a lot of information I could share with you all about the dollars, you know, the amounts of money that have come into the city and how we've been totally stepped over and stepped aside in lieu of other areas of the city.
I'm going to say one thing before the questions, and it has to do with why these books are here. Part of what they are is it's got a, I'll pass one around so you can see what I'm talking about, or two. It's got a, it's one of those things where it's a story with three parts, if you will. You wrote the story 2 years after the storm, which I first did. It looked like this green dot, so to speak, which was, you know, put on there more by the newspaper than an urban institute. But it looked like somehow we might win, that all the fighting Vanessa and everybody else had done had succeeded in getting the largest single commitment of resources from the recovery czar, from the mayor. Dagan brought them and the council to Vanessa and 2 or 3 other, Tanya and a couple other leaders from the 9th Ward to the announcement. They were the only community people who weren't elected officials. And so the first part of this book is sort of this high point, and then they got a commitment of over $100 million to rebuild. And the second and third parts, though, as the years go by, and in some ways it was fortunate we didn't get the book done then, those commitments end up evaporating. A lot of the money that was promised didn't get delivered, how it was supposed to be spent, so it ends up as a rocky road. But we went back and forth on the cover picture and ended up, and I think it was a surprise to Vanessa, with this great picture. You can tell this is a real situation.
Real great picture.
Yeah, I think it's a great picture of Vanessa, who at that point was yelling at who the mayor of New Orleans, who were going to city council, another one of the leaders there. And so, you know, the fact that they got to rebuild it all, and we got the right to rebuild as slow as it's been in Gentilly, and I'd like to hear more about that, and the whole, you know, bookstore guy, what's that? Not Barnes and, Barnes and Noble, I guess, takes a lot of credit for rebuilding hundreds of houses. You've got all the Brad Pitt baloney there in the lower ninth, and all these outrageous things, but 7 years, it's a long time.
It's a long time, and I mean, you read in this book all about the campaigns, and I mean, it was exhilarating, you know, to get these people to commit to this, you know, to fight like hell, you know, and get a commitment of recovery in these dollars to our neighborhood. It just meant so much to us, you know. But as we said, you had the highs, and then you have the lows, you know. Nagin left office, now we have Landry, you know. And again, the pace of recovery for these neighborhoods are not nowhere near what they should be. You know, when you just look at other parts of the city and you know all the monies that came, all the monies. I mean, when I think about $118 million submerged road project. Now, just the word just submerged. When you think about the word submerged, the lower 9th Ward was submerged for at least, 2 months? It was because it re-flooded for Hurricane Rita. Yet, when the RTA and the Department of Transportation and the Federal Highway Commission came here and met with the local officials, somehow New Orleans East and the lower 9th Ward was stepped over completely. When I looked at the map, it just was unreal. I'm like, how did the sliver by the river, Magazine Street, warrant $6.7 million? When we're still sitting in the lower 9th Ward and parts of New Orleans East with terrible infrastructure problems. 7 years later. You know, I asked Ms. Head, who came to the lower 9th Ward Saturday, how long have you been the chair of the Public Works Committee? And she said 5 years. And I said, well, you've been sitting on your hands for 5 years. You know, who makes the decision as to where this money goes and what's done? So immediately she threw it on the mayor. Well, 90% of the mayor and it's 10% of the committee, you know. So, you know I'm asking the mayor. That's the next question.
You can spend the rest of your life going between the two of them.
Yeah, and they're gonna throw it, they're gonna.
Button, where's the button?
They're gonna kick the can to each other, but, you know, things like that just infuriate you when it's a submerged road project. And the thing about it, when Mendoza was in office, I went to him with another member to his office, screamed and hollered about Galvez Street, which is the street that the Galvez bus travels down. And at that time, that was 2008, Galvez Street was part of the submerged road project. And as time went on, Galvez disappeared completely off the map.
Because they're paving the whole French Quarter with that funds right now.
Exactly.
Well, that's probably what they meant by a submerged road project. Galvez just got submerged.
Yeah, that's it. You know,
They changed the name of the road.
well, they came up with Paths to
Yeah,
Progress.
Paths to Progress.
Is a $90 million program. And the thing about the submerged road project is that you had some leeway to pick what streets and where you wanted them done. The Paths to Progress project is stipulated. You can't, there's no room to manipulate or move anything. These are the streets that's designated that's gonna be done, and that's it. So that's a $90 million project, and I think we only got 2, maybe 3 streets in the Lower Ninth Ward. And 2 other streets were done with bond money, but our mayor has been touting forever and a day that it was recovery money. When I know from my research, it was $5 million worth of bond money from 1999 that did flood and garden streets, and these streets lead to active walls on the river.
That's Mark Morial's administration.
Right, so the next fight is gonna be members in the neighborhood saying, this is not a truck route. Because the next thing is gonna be 18-wheelers barreling down these people's streets in that area, and that's Holy Cross, historic, barreling down that street to go to that active wharf on the river, with no regard for anybody's foundation.
With garbage
Or
for the
repair.
incinerator.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you know, the fight for the garbage incinerator, the gasification, plasma gasification plant. Sun Energy is a group that wanted to put a plasma gasification plant in District 8 along Jordan Avenue, Old Gentilly Road, that area back there in about 2009.
Far New Orleans East.
Right. So we waged
East of New Orleans.
the campaign, beat this guy back, yet this guy is back again. Okay? And he's back again, and he's from what I understand, he's got about maybe 2 or 3 sites in mind. Now, mind you, there's no plant like this anywhere in the country. Mind you.
What is a plasma gasification plant?
Well, they actually bring in barges and barges of garbage, and it's burned at a, I guess, a higher velocity temperature. But then you have toxins and carcinogens and all kind of things that's emitted into the air. So we're already cancer alley, you know. So really, the entire city needs to be concerned about this gasification plant. When you think about the marsh fire in New Orleans East and how all that smoke travels everywhere all over the city, why would you want to have a plasma gasification plant? And if it fails, then the taxpayer is on the hook for probably the cleanup. You know, we had a Superfund site back around Carver High School. It took years. They built a school on that site. They eventually shut the school down. You know, and those residents fought to get monies from that lawsuit for years. I don't know if anybody ever got any money from the lawsuit.
And once again, we got some new people here, so where is the Carver School site?
The Carver school site, Carver High School site is back where it's going to be. But Dunn Elementary was built,
And where is that?
it's in Upper Nine, but it's not near the Carver site. It's like Carver is here, and Dunn was more over this way.
No, lower 9 is the other side of the canal, upper 9 is this side of the canal.
So Upper Nine is separate and apart from the Bywater neighborhood. Once you cross St. Claude and you're on the lake side of that neighborhood, you know, that's, part of that is the Upper Nine.
Oh, Bywater is part of the upper 9 too, but essentially the Press Street Railroad tracks are the boundary, if you know what that is.
Right.
Anybody lives downtown.
So
We need
again,
two-lane public health to get down here too.
I needed a map.
That's right. Well, there's a map in the back of the book. Those people that still have the book, you can check the map. We'll pass around more.
so again, we're fighting this guy that wants to do this plasma gasification plant. You know,
Chair right here, couple in the,
okay.
oh no, come on in, come on in. Well, whatever, mix it up.
They got a chair right there for you.
Okay, you're good. Well, and you know, this happens every time I've ever been with Vanessa, you know, she'll say, I'm about to have questions, and all of a sudden she'll get going somewhere and she's, more good news than the lower ninth ward, but you were about to say if anybody had a question.
Yes,
so-
I'm gonna stop.
No, you don't need to, but
Yeah.
we'll go on to some new thing.
Yeah, so I'm gonna stop.
Yes, ma'am.